So I'd like to start this presentation by telling you some very important information, and that is that of all the presentations you'll see yesterday and today, this one is definitely the most pointless. And the reason it's the most pointless, I just came to that conclusion when I was sitting in my seat listening to Leos and Dusan. Even though I'm a sales guy, I could never sell it as well as our customers have on our behalf today. So, okay, it's not a pointless presentation. You don't have to go and have an early lunch. You can actually pay attention because the purpose of today's presentation is a bit of a workshop on Digital Onboarding Toolkit. It's important that you guys engage using the Slido app and ask lots of questions and give us your feedback because we like to discuss those points and see what you think, basically. So I'll give you a quick look at the agenda. We're going to take this back a little bit because you've seen some interesting use cases of DOT and how people are using it in the real world. But I'd like to give you an insight into the thought process at Innovatrics and how we came up with this product, which has so far been very successful for us. So the agenda will cover, first of all, the story of DOT from not even having the concept in our minds to becoming aware of the concept and to actually putting it into a deliverable product. Then we'll outline some of the technical challenges we had in actually making these things work so smoothly. Because even though it looks really, 1, 2, 3, click, click, there's a lot of stuff happening in the background, and that's what Jan's going to talk about, some of the challenges we had and how we actually overcame those. Yeah, the early success stories, again, this is a pointless slide because you've already seen 2 of them, but I'll just go over them again and maybe talk about some of the other use cases that we can see DOT fitting into and that we're running some maybe interesting POCs in. Very important is what's next, the product roadmap, and as with everything at Innovatrics, that's actually driven by a lot of the people in the room, and I don't mean Innovatrics employees, I mean our customers. So if you see something that's interesting in the product roadmap, please write on Slido what you think about it. If you see something missing that we could have there, let us know and we'll really take that on board. Yeah, and then at the end we'll have that session for questions and answers. So it's over to you. Tell us how we can improve. Tell us what we can do to bring this to life for your applications, and we'll talk about that. I want to start actually with a little bit of audience participation to get you using the Slido application again. So if you can take out your Slido, and if we can get the Slido question up on the board. A couple of slides on from here, I'm going to mention the concept of the Almighty. We're going very biblical with it, okay? The Almighty. So can we get Slido up, please, the question that's prepared? Perfect. Somebody has skipped 4 people have skipped, okay, perfect. In your business, or your company, or organization, or institution, who is the Almighty? Who calls the shots? If any Innovatrics employees are here, they're going to vote for sure for the CEO, I would say, but I'm going to give it 20 seconds or until we get to maybe 20 people. We're at 17, that's great. Okay. Okay, more or less what I expected, that customers would come first. Actually, CEOs or people, especially with maybe a HR background, would say that the most important people in a company are the employees, because without them, you can't actually do anything. You don't have any customers without having good people and clever people working for you. I would agree, as a sales guy, my Almighty is definitely the customer. My job is to basically deliver upon and exceed their expectations. So we're going to show you now how we did that by starting with the story of DOT. So if you can go back to the presentation, please. The story of DOT, and keeping with the biblical theme or the universal theme, we have to say that in the beginning, there was no DOT. And then my Almighty, not the CEO, not the employees, not the colleagues, the customer, up in the sky, called us, or several customers called us, and they presented us with a challenge. And the challenge was, very simply put, help me onboard my clients, new clients, easily and securely. So we said, interesting concept, so how can we help you do that? What does that look like for you? And they came up with some simple steps. They said, basically what you've seen already, we want our customers to identify themselves, to give us their ID card or identity document, submit it to a system, and that we can extract that information. So we know where they live, we know what they look like, we know their address, etc., etc. Then we want to verify that the person claiming to be Jan is actually Jan. So that could be like a selfie or something like that. And of course, the challenge of liveness. We need to actually prove that the person is not holding up a picture of Jan and pretending to be him and spoofing the system. So we had some talks with the customer, and we really kind of analyzed this in detail. This is actually a direct picture of us analyzing all of the requirements and thinking about how we can come up with some sort of solution for this challenge, which we like to do. So we came up with, let's say, 2 distinct sets of technical requirements that would make this technology at least minimally viable. The first part relates to document capture and OCR. Capturing the document, making sure that we accurately extract the biographic and biometric information, and then processing it further. The challenges we had there, of course, was easy and accurate document capture. Because ease is obviously for the user experience. We don't want clunky solutions where people have to really work hard to get the right image, and also the customer behavior is not always optimal. And it had to be accurate, which is very self-explanatory. It had to function in poor lighting conditions. For example, when we're going to demonstrate it to you after, I wouldn't say the lighting conditions on the stage are optimal. And also, Dusan mentioned people in the bathroom trying to onboard. I don't know how the lighting conditions are there, but probably not great for digital onboarding. So we need to be robust to those things. People will try to onboard in weird situations, in cars or whatever it might be. It also had to be tolerant to glare, because ID cards are usually laminated or have some shiny reflective surface on them. So people, you would think, would normally instinctively try to avoid the glare and capture in the right way. But actually we found when we looked into it that people will try to onboard with like the sun shining directly on their ID card. So we wanted to be somehow robust to those kind of poor customer behaviors, let's say. Yep, next one is self-explanatory. We need to extract the information on a server or using some solution for that. It had to be fast and accurate, because every time I download a new application, I'm a very impatient technology user. I download the app, I look at it, I try to get it working, and if in 30 seconds it's not cooperating with me, I'll probably delete it or not use it any further. And that's not what we want our banks or financial institutions to give as a customer experience to their customers. So it had to be fast and it had to be accurate. Also, the app had to be, in general, or the solution had to be configurable. It had to actually suit the use cases, the risk appetites of the people who are going to use it. Because in banking, you may have one risk appetite. In consumer finance, another one. If you're doing a taxi service and you want to verify who your drivers are, it might be a lower risk appetite. So all of the things in this solution had to be configurable and tailored to the actual use case. The second batch of requirements or technical challenges that we came up with were related to the selfie capture and the liveness check. So we needed to auto-capture. We don't want people actually having to press when they can capture the image, because they'll press it in very strange times or not optimal ways. So we actually had to somehow predefine or put in some image quality check, which would actually automatically capture the image when it reaches a certain level of, we call it ICAO compliance, or it's a decent picture. So we had to put in some algorithm which could automatically detect when the picture was to an acceptable level and then do the capture automatically. The liveness check step, you've actually seen how it works now, but basically when we came up with that challenge, or we realized that people will try to spoof this system, proving the liveness of a person was a real challenge for us. So we had to scratch our heads and think about it and come up with a nice solution for it. And then we looked even more deeper into the actual cards, the ID cards that we're onboarding with. We needed to look at some, let's say, second-level security checks or more advanced security checks, like checking the MRZ, the machine readable zone on the card, on the back, and verifying that information with the data on the front. We could also think about things like gender and age analysis. So if the person on the card is a 35-year-old male, and the person onboarding, the picture taken by the person onboarding is a 48-year-old male or a 58-year-old male, then we would raise a flag. So we thought about these things in depth, and my job as the scoper or the salesperson trying to get these requirements from the customer is to write up these ideas and these challenges that we have, and basically then hand them over to our clever guys in product management and say, this is what we need to deliver, how can you make it happen? And that's when I move over to Jan, and let Jan explain the key technical challenges, how we've overcome them, and what's next for DOT. So I'll hand over to my colleague, Jan.
Thanks, Donal. So, as my colleague mentioned, we had a couple of technical challenges to solve. So the first one was the liveness check, and the other one was the identity document OCR. How can we kind of technically overcome all the challenges there, and what do we do with these two requirements? So I'll talk about liveness check first. So what do you think is the point of liveness check? To realize that the person is live, it's not the robot. So there is a solution there. Yay! So probably not, as you might see here. So it's a funny video. Robot is trying to fool the CAPTCHA, and off you go, get the glasses, really cool song at the end. So it's probably not that easy to solve the liveness, at least not for the robots. And also liveness, the other purpose of the liveness is to add security to the system, so we are not getting anybody there to fool you. So security, we have some unsecure objects on the screen there, and in security world there are always two people or two kind of concepts fighting. One of them is strong security, so we want to have your system as secure as possible. On the other side, you have user experience, so you want your users to feel as comfortable and make it as easy for them to use your applications as possible. So there's always the fight between these two gentlemen. So what about user experience? Let's have a look at this side. So if your password looks like this, and you have it on a piece of paper on your computer, it's brilliant user experience. You don't have to remember anything. It's easy. Even if you forget it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, off you go. You're in. Is it very secure? Probably not. So let's see. For the strong security, you can probably add some complexity rules for your passwords, and then you won't remember anything. You might add a palm scanner, since we are on a biometric conference. Let's use something like that. You can also have a video chat with a live person on the other side of the video conference. I think somebody mentioned it here earlier that some of the banks or institutions use this as liveness. For yet more security, you will just add some tokens for a second level check. So let's see. Do you have a palm scanner with you, anybody? No, I thought so. So it brings us to, okay, yes, we want to have very strong security, but there are probably some technical limitations. Oh, probably it's a bit better than the old phone. So we have smartphones available, everybody's carrying them, they have signal, they have internet data, so we thought that we can probably work with that as a basis, and we'll see what we come up with. So the other challenge for us was identity document, OCR. But again, there's a few challenges within the challenge. The first one was there is no single standard for document worldwide, not to mention the country, but worldwide. So we have passport, a couple of other different documents. So there is no single standard. As a side steps question, do you have USB in your computer? Anybody? I guess so. But which one? Type A, Type B. There are different form factors, different editions, and it's the same with the documents. You all remember the presentation yesterday, the evolution of the Panama ID. It was still the same ID, had different editions. So we had to fix that. Again, yet another challenge within the challenge, low quality images. So the image was taken in very bad lighting conditions. There is a lot of blur. Might be hard to read, and we want to make sure that, or wanted to make sure that our solution works even in these poor conditions. So hard to read, floating fields. Again, somebody mentioned there, oh, I just received a piece of paper and I just had to type my name in and maybe stick a picture of me on it, and that was the ID. So we all have to deal with that. Also, the IDs over time, I'm sure that you are not carrying them in a special protective case or sleeve or anything like that. It's in a back pocket, it's out there, could be scratched, there could be some other damage, so we still have to deal with that. So we kind of sat down with engineering and R&D team, and we thought, okay, so what are our goals for this technology? What do we want to achieve? So the first one was the right balance between the security and user experience. You remember those gentlemen. In real world, if they're really fighting, one of them will lose. In an ideal world, we want both of them to be satisfied, so they kind of shake the hands and go out for a pint. So we need to find the right balance between the user experience and the security on the other side. And the other thing, going back to yesterday's Jan's theme of trust, we need to achieve great accuracy so we can actually trust the technology. Yes, this is the right face, this is the right OCR input. So we thought about what can we do, what sort of technology can help us dealing with that. And we said, okay, we'll employ deep learning, we'll get the machines to deal with all the issues. Again, some funny pictures here. Can you count how many dogs do you see here? Any numbers? 5, 3, 6, 7.
6.
It's actually 8. So you see, it was relatively tough task for you guys, and for computer, it's even tougher. You can learn through experience, and the computers, the way how they learn using images. But there is a problem there. Machines are really data hungry. You really need millions and millions and millions of images to be able to have a neural network that will distinguish a towel from the dog and make a real count. So you need really a large data set. Again, there is yet another constraint there. With millions of images, you need a lot of resources. You need a lot of time to take them. You probably need a lot of money to purchase data sets. And also, there are limitations in smaller countries like Vatican or Liechtenstein, Andorra. You don't even have enough real samples to take because the population is so small, and obviously you can't go a step further and start damaging all the real documents, so you have your technology able to process damaged documents. So what we came up with is a document annotation tool, and this allows us to take just a few pictures of a sample document and then do a really precise, I'm not sure if you see the green dot there, do precise annotation. So you say, okay, in this area of the document, there is a face, there is a name, there is a number, this is the machine readable zone. So you annotate the document and say, okay, so this is what you can expect. It has a different format. This is all you need. Then you try one or two other examples, so you have kind of like a good sample. And that's really it. Then what we do is we use these annotated samples to generate a huge, huge data set, with different angles, different scratches, and all of that. And we use that data set to train the algorithms to recognize this is the ID and everything what's on the ID. So we have a few more examples there. Okay, so having all of this in mind, all the different steps, the face recognition, the OCR, we all put everything together, and we have a time for a live demo. I think you have seen it before, but repeating is always good, just kind of bring the different ideas. So I'll just try to do a demo with my own ID and leave talking to Donal.
I'll do the talking. Yeah. So this live demo is basically, we call it InnoBank because we kind of saw that the first use cases we had were in banking or in finance. Actually, it's just a demonstration of all of the functions possible with this technology. It's important to understand that it's basically an SDK which you take and you integrate into your native app and you make it work the way you want it to work for your workflows or for your business case. So this is just put all those things together into an app in the fake use case of onboarding a customer for a bank, and we'll show you step by step all of the different features that we've come up with. So Jan will start.
So
he's going to open his account. And it's telling him to scan his document and then to take a selfie. So 2 basic steps. You've seen what they've done in the Philippines with Home Credit. They've actually put animation GIFs in place because the population there are using it in different ways than maybe here. So this is the flexibility of it. So he's going to go ahead and scan his Slovak ID card. You first of all pick the document type because we support 25 or 30 documents at the moment and we're constantly adding to that. So he's going to pick his Slovak ID card, click confirm. And we should see a camera, exactly. So you've seen this already in the demonstration with Tatra Banka. He's taking the front and back side of his card. This is working slightly differently than what you've seen because this is actually going now to a server that we have in our office, basically. And it's taking the image of the card, it's running the OCR algorithm over it, and it's extracting the biographic and biometric information and giving a confidence score for each field. So how confident it is that each field has been extracted correctly. You can see with the result, so I don't know why it's blue, it should be normal color, I think it's just a screen issue.
No, it's the light actually here, light conditions.
Okay, so never mind. Jan's ID, even if he takes the picture, and you guys can try this with our demonstration app, even if you take the ID card from like this far away or from bad angles, it will automatically change the perspective, crop it, and put it into a presentable format that we can use. You can see it's telling Jan that all the items were recognized successfully. And successful for us means that they've exceeded the predefined confidence score for each field. So we're happy that all of the information has been extracted successfully. We can check that to make sure it's correct. So let's look at Jan's rodne číslo, which is his birth number. 8103. Yeah, seems to add up, seems to match. Okay, we can check those fields and we can see where it's been extracted. We can even see that Jan had his ID issued by Lucenec, which has a specific Mekchen over the C, which is a Slovak character, and we have similar characters in Turkish language and in different languages. We can also basically read those characters, so special characters are not an issue. So we can check our data, we can say that we're happy that the data has been extracted. There's also the ability, if necessary, and if it suits your use case, to edit the data. If you see that it's been taken wrong, or it's fallen below the predefined confidence score, you can actually edit that data. Some use cases won't lend themselves to that, and some will. So Jan will confirm that he's happy with the extraction, apart from the fact that it's very blue, which I think is a lighting issue specific to here. Actually, it's a good example of how we have not optimal lighting, and we still managed to successfully read the ID card. So we click all correct. We didn't set that up in advance, actually. It's just happened like that. So Jan will take a selfie. He's been told here to move towards the light, to move closer. He may be told to take off his glasses if they prove to be an issue, which he will do. Okay. Center his face, and now it's telling him stay still. So what it's saying now is the algorithm saying, I'm happy that this is a good enough picture, stay still and do the liveness check. The liveness check is checking that his eyes are following this randomly moving dot across the screen. It's happy enough that he is definitely Jan and definitely alive, and it's saying welcome to your account, you can now access your service, whatever it might be. So once he has done that, he can now sign in with a very simple selfie. You need to cover the camera again, I think. Yeah, so he can just actually not press any buttons, just open the camera on his phone or press the app to log in, and his face is recognized straight away, and he can access his services. The thing is, if you want to put in the liveness check step there, you can also do that. This is the configurability of the application. Jan is now, it's been a tough year at Innovatrics. It's 23 euros in the current account. But if I wanted to see that information, I wouldn't be able to see it, because it's one of the features which you can have, or if you want, is that it will constantly check for the presence of the face of the person that we claim to be. So that's, I think Leos mentioned some use cases for when a customer is entering their personal data onto a tablet that's owned by a sales rep. Only the customer can enter their data. When they give it back to the sales rep, the application recognizes that the face of the customer is no longer present and blurs out the data, so the sales rep can't misuse that data. So that's a demonstration of the application. The main functions of DOT, again, if you take it from us, it's in an SDK form and you have to integrate it, and you can basically make it match your own business case. I'll talk now very, very briefly about some of the early successes, because there are two main early successes that we've had, and thankfully they've both been here today to tell you about it, because it's always better coming from the mouth of the customer as opposed to me. Yeah, Tatra Banka, you've just seen it. It's the first bank in Slovakia and actually this region to implement such a solution. As Dusan mentioned, the numbers are pretty impressive of what they've achieved so far, which is high-level numbers that 30% of all new accounts are opened using Digital Onboarding Toolkit. Among their target group, I think when they began this project, they wanted to target the unbanked, so basically students. And in that sector, they've actually got 50% of all of those people who now access those services are doing it through DOT. And we've seen the numbers. I mean, 8 minutes to get a loan seems unbelievable. And what was it, 3 minutes to open a current account? This time last year, that was fairy tale stuff. Like, nobody would have believed you that was actually possible. But we've seen in real life that this is actually happening. So this is what Dot has enabled Tetrabank to do and what they've achieved with it. The other very successful implementation, and a little bit different, is Home Credit, because Home Credit are onboarding customers and providing microfinance to them. Home Credit are doing it slightly differently because they actually have a large database of 6 million faces, and every time they onboard a person through the application, that face is actually being sent to that database to see if that person has attempted to onboard before using a different identity. So there's an added level of fraud check. I guess the Tetrabank equivalent would be the Ministry of Interior link. So there are options to have these extra levels of security in the application. This was the first and still only such solution in the Philippines, I would say. Again, setting the trends. It's got integration with ABIS for one-to-end check, like I've mentioned. And yeah, Leoš also mentioned with our smart face, which is, I think, after the lunch break, the possibility to actually identify people as they walk into a store. So you can imagine that you go to the Philippines, or you are a Filipino citizen, you go through the onboarding process, you access, you give your data to Home Credit, you access the services, and then 2 days later you walk into a store and they say, oh, hi, Donal, how are you? We know you bought something from us a couple of days ago. We'd like to offer you this discount on this product. So it's quite a powerful tool for these kind of use cases. There's also one use case which I don't have a slide on, but I think the gentleman in front mentioned it yesterday, and Peter also mentioned it when we talked about the biometric ecosystem, which is air travel. And I think probably everybody in this room, or most people in this room, travel an insane amount of time every year. 50 or 100 flights a year is not uncommon for people in our industry. And if you think about it, the amount of time you lose is just incredible. You know, no matter how much VIP points you have or senator level on the airlines, you always lose lots of time at airports. So there are ways that we can use this technology to solve that problem. And also in the European Union, there's a new directive, which by 2020, all points of entry, exit have to collect two-factor biometrics. So that's likely to cause more queues and more problems at border crossings and airports. So let's imagine a scenario where I've been on a business trip, I'm in my hotel, I'm getting a taxi to the airport. Instead of having to go through all of in some countries you have to show your passport like 5 times before you actually get through to your flight, right? So instead of doing all that, I just take out my phone, I'm in the taxi, I do my identity document and a selfie and all of that stuff. I link that, this could be in an airline's application, for example. I link that to my boarding pass that I'm going to use today to fly. And as I get to the airport, there's a smart face technology working or some similar solution. My face is my ticket. I just walk through to the departure zone, I walk onto the plane, and I don't show anybody any documents or any passport or anything like that. And this is some of the interesting areas we've been exploring with this technology. We have some interesting proof of concepts, and we've even seen some tenders published with these kind of thinking. So it's not us saying that this is what we'd like to do with this technology. It's really the industry saying to us that these are the needs we have, and how can you solve those needs. So we're coming to the last 10 minutes of the presentation. I'm going to hand quickly back over to Jan, and he's going to tell us what's next. Because as we've seen, and Jan Lunter had some slides about how fast things develop in our industry. We're not talking about fingerprints anymore, where things are predictable and they kind of improve sort of measurably over time. With face biometrics and with this whole new area, it's quantum leaps, and not even over years, but over months. So what's next for us? What are the areas of this product that we see that we can prioritize for 2019 and get into the product? And also, we'd like your feedback on that to tell us if we're thinking the right way or if we need to change our thinking. So Jan will tell us what the product roadmap has in store, and we'll then take your questions.
Okay, so for this year, what we want to do is, I think you've seen one sneak peek preview. Yesterday, we would like to do integration with ABIS. We are finishing touches right now on that, and hopefully it will be live soon. The other thing that we want to do is to improve the liveness or the usability or user experience of liveness check. So yes, it's working, it's reliable to a certain degree, but we want to improve the experience for people using that. So there are different ways what we are currently thinking about. We'll see what we come up with hopefully later this year. The next one is, as a lot of people mentioned here in the last 2 days, biometric game is not just black and white, yes or no. It's always about getting a lot of different signals to manage the risk of loans or opening an account or travel. So we want to come up with more ways how can we enable our customers to collect data for risk assessment and build it into the digital onboarding toolkit so they can integrate it into their technology and into their processes. And the last thing is identity document classifier. If you remember my slide with a lot of different USB cables, it's happening with documents. Right now, with our current state of technology, we need to select which document we want to recognize, and we want to, again, improve the user experience for our users and make sure that they just need to take the picture of the document and they don't have to worry about, oh, is it the driving license, is it the passport, or which edition is it? Is it 2015, 2017? So we want to make it easier for our or your users to use the technology, and hopefully this will keep us busy for the rest of the year. So thank you very much for your attention.